Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for joining us. We're going to start in Minneapolis this morning, where outrage is growing following the fatal shooting of a driver by a federal agent during an immigration-related operation yesterday. Now, the full incident was caught on camera, and we do want to warn you the videos you're about to see are disturbing. The Minnesota Star-Tribune identified the driver as 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. Officials say she is a U.S. citizen who was not the target of this operation.
The Trump administration is defending the ICE agent's actions. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says that he fired in self-defense. She described Good as a, quote, domestic terrorist. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, using strong language, denied those claims, calling the entire incident reckless. Now, another governor who has clashed with the White House over immigration raids, Illinois leader J.B. Pritzker, is calling for Secretary Noem to resign. We're going to speak to NBC News law enforcement analyst Evie Pompouras in just a moment. We begin with the latest from NBC's Alice Barr.
The city of Minneapolis, once again the center of protest, outrage, and grief.
I'm beyond the thoughts and prayers. I'm enraged now.
After an ICE officer fatally shot a 37-year-old woman identified as Renee Good in the Minnesota Star-Tribune. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem says the woman was blocking an ICE vehicle that got stuck in the snow as officers tried to push it out.
She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle.
Video from the scene shows an officer going to the driver's door, another stepping in front of the vehicle, and when the driver accelerates forward and to the right, shots fired.
The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey pushing back.
Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is
and issuing this stark message.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
President Trump defending the officer's actions and vowing to protect law enforcement agents. And as Homeland Security labeled the incident an act of domestic terrorism, Governor Tim Walz urged protesters to stay peaceful.
Minnesotans, don't take the bait. Do not take the bait.
While the community reels. Good's mother told the Minnesota Star-Tribune she was a compassionate and amazing human being. Family members say she leaves behind a partner and a 6-year-old child. The FBI is joining the investigation as schools are closed across Minneapolis due to safety concerns. Savannah and Joe.
All right, Alice, thank you so much. Let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Evie Pompouras. Evie, good to have you with us. So we know both state and federal investigators are going to try and determine what happened in the moments before the shooting. We're seeing these conflicting narratives about what transpired. So where does this investigation start? What is the top priority?
So you're going to look at what led to the incident. So if you're going to break it down piece by piece as far as the escalation goes, ICE vehicles are trying to move. You have another vehicle blocking that. They're giving commands to that vehicle. That vehicle is not moving. So ICE agents exit the vehicle, approach the vehicle. As they approach the vehicle drives away. So now this is where it gets very interesting, where the assessment's going to begin, is did that officer, and I want to say this, I know where everyone's looking at these videos, making their own assessment from their home with all the time that they have. But the way it works, and the way even I was trained when we're in law enforcement, is what do I reasonably believe? What does that officer reasonably believe in that moment? And the only time you are allowed to use lethal force is, I believe my life is an imminent threat or the life of another. So if they can show, or if that officer can explain, I felt that my life was an imminent threat. I think one key piece of evidence is going to be the entry point of those bullets. So, for example, if those bullets went through the windshield, right, then you're looking at frontal alignment, meaning that the car was very likely frontally aligned. And again, we are assessing here based on the limited information we have. The vehicle was frontally aligned with the officer who engaged the person driving the vehicle. That's going to strengthen the narrative, because if that person is saying, the officer is saying, I thought this vehicle was going to be used against me. I felt my life in that moment was an imminent threat, because if you look at that video too, everything happens within seconds. So within seconds, you're doing that mental math. Do I shoot? Can I shoot? Should I shoot? Do I have that ability to engage? So that's really what they're going to look at. If the shots were taken from a different angle or even a side window, then that changes the narrative quite a bit. So these are the things they're going to look at. But really the court, what it comes down to is not what we all think after the fact and what we know after the fact. And all the time we have to review the video and the footage after the fact. It's what that officer reasonably believed in that moment. And if he reasonably believed that he thought the vehicle was being used against him from his perspective, then that's going to strengthen the case, saying, I thought she was going to kill me, cause me harm. So these are the different things that are going to be looked at. And I suspect that from the other side of the house, right, local authorities, people have opposing views, may try to prosecute or indict the officer. Well, probably indict or take before a grand jury to say his behavior was reckless. And another twist of fate, and I don't know if they'd have enough to do this, you could, and in some situations, they try to, you know, and here the individual, this is tragic. The individual is deceased, but in some situations where the person is still living, they may even try to indict or prosecute the person who caused the incident. So there's a lot of different factors here to look at.
Evie, I think something that we're watching unfold right now is that even though that there are videos of this incident because there were bystanders, there are different conclusions being made, even though it's on video. How do these videos factor in? You just explained a lot of what will be asked of the actual officer involved here, what he believed to be true in that moment for him. How do the videos factor in? How are conclusions made from that?
The videos factor because it proves a story. Unfortunately, what we've seen in the past when there was no video, and this is what led officers to start wearing body cams, it's the he said, she said things. And that's always been a problem. I think the videos help a lot. It helps a lot to show. The thing is, and I have to tell you this, whatever side you're on, everybody's made up their mind. If I'm pro-ICE or pro-law enforcement, I've made up my mind within the first 5 minutes. If I'm against, I've made up my mind within the 5 minutes. So as far as the public goes, people have made up their minds. So whatever comes out after the fact, decisions are made. I think, though, the video supports the incident. The video is going to support the testimony given by the ICE agents. They can corroborate what is said. It's a detriment when you don't have the footage and it's truly very ambiguous. So I think the video, I know the video footage is going to help tremendously.
Abby, you mentioned this call that some people have made to have the officer charged in this case. Clearly, a lot more investigating needs to be done, but you said there could be an indictment or maybe this goes before a grand jury. How tough of a case would that be?
I think this is going to be a tough one because the way I broke it down at the beginning is the escalation. I understand it's a single mother, and this is tragic. I just want to say this is terrible. It's a single mother. She has a son. She was unarmed, right? We know this stuff all after the fact, but when you're in this stuff, you don't know. And so we have to look at the data and what was reasonable for that officer to believe. Violence against ICE, we were looking at the data, the DHS released that data, up 1,300%. So they are already at a heightened state. This is law enforcement. You're not supposed to interfere. So if we're looking at, you're blocking the road, we're trying to get around you, you're not following our commands, we approach your vehicle, you're not coming out of your vehicle, we're giving you commands. Then as we go to open your vehicle, you hit the gas. Again, this is where it starts to get fuzzy. You drive away. All these things strengthen the case for ICE, not the other way around.
All right. Evie Pomporis, appreciate your expertise and analysis this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Well, at least 2 people are dead and 6 others are injured after a shooting behind a church in Salt Lake City overnight. According to authorities, the shooting happened while a funeral was taking place inside the meeting house of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson has been following this story for us. He joins us with the latest. Steve, good morning. Walk us through what we know right now about what happened.
Savannah, police say they get the call at about 7:30 last night to, as you mentioned, the parking lot of a meeting house for the Church of Latter-day Saints. Inside, there is a packed funeral service going on, and I'm talking dozens of people. Meanwhile, outside, police responding to those shots fired after they say an altercation occurred, resulting in the shooting. As you mentioned, 2 dead, at least 6 injured, 3 of those in critical condition. An active manhunt continues, at least 1 suspect still at large. And meanwhile, we've heard from witnesses on the scene describing the sound of the shooting and what they saw in the aftermath. Here is one with what they saw and heard. Listen to this.
Shots were fired outside of the meeting house, but you could definitely hear them inside. It was pretty loud, especially when inside all you can hear is just quietness. And then with those loud shots, definitely kind of shook the whole place up.
So despite this taking place in the parking lot of a church, police were quick to say that they don't believe that this was motivated by religion. They don't necessarily also believe that this was a random shooting, implying that this may have been a targeting shooting and that the parties likely knew each other. Savannah?
And then any idea there on suspects? Do they have any leads on who may have been involved?
You know, in my verbiage just a minute ago, I mentioned that at least 1 suspect is at large, and police were, easy to say that they don't necessarily know if there is 1 shooter or if there are several shooters. The biggest lead they have so far, they say they have grainy video of at least 1 suspect getting into a car and driving off, but because the quality of the video is so poor, they're not able to release the description of the vehicle that they have. They're working with the FBI, ATF, all investigating, working on leads, looking at video, but at this point, no suspect in custody and no major leads to report. Savannah.
Right, a lot still to learn here. Steve Patterson, thanks for bringing us that breaking news.
The Trump administration is intensifying its control over Venezuela's oil by seizing 2 oil tankers linked to the South American country. One of the tankers was sailing under a Russian flag, while the other was Panama flagged. The U.S. says both were sanctioned vessels. Comes as the White House begins to outline controversial plans for Venezuela and its oil following that U.S. attack over the weekend. That's when Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife were captured and taken to New York. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday defended the decision to seize those tankers.
This was a Venezuelan shadow fleet vessel that has transported sanctioned oil, and the United States of America, under this president, is not going to tolerate that. I would also just add the vessel had a judicial seizure order in the crew, so that means the crew is now subject to prosecution for any applicable violation of federal law, and they will be brought to the United States for such prosecution if necessary.
NBC News national security reporter Gordon Lubold joins us now with more on this. So, Gordon, walk us through how these seizures unfolded and what the U.S. is alleging about these tankers.
Right. So here on the East Coast yesterday morning, we all kind of woke up to this reasonably dramatic seizure.
Our apologies. We are having some technical issues with Gordon. We will see if we can get that fixed anytime soon and try to check back in with Gordon.
Well, let's stay on the topic of Venezuela, though. We're going to get more reaction from Congress to the developments that we've seen with NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona. Mel, first, maybe give us a little bit of a backdrop about where we are right now, given that we were not able to just get that information from Gordon. But we do know that lawmakers were given this classified briefing about the attack on Venezuela and the administration's plans for moving forward. We heard a little bit on the Hill yesterday about this 3-step plan from Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth. What did those lawmakers learn? What is the latest here?
Yeah, well, lawmakers seem to be in agreement after the briefing that the Trump officials laid out their legal rationale for conducting this operation to capture Maduro and also laid out their very detailed plan for controlling Venezuela's oil reserves. But lawmakers were in disagreement about whether that operation was in fact legal and whether the plans for oil acquisition will actually work. Just listen to Democratic Senator Chris Murphy.
This is an insane plan. They are talking about stealing the Venezuelan oil at gunpoint for a period of time undefined as leverage to micromanage the country. I mean, the scope and insanity of that plan is absolutely stunning.
Now, after After the briefing, Secretary Rubio talked to reporters. He confirmed that the Trump administration is close to a deal to acquire between 30 million and 50 million barrels of Venezuelan oil, sell it on the open market, and then use those proceeds to help with Venezuela's transition to a new government. They also insisted that there are no troops on the ground currently, but they have not ruled that out as something they might deploy in the future, which is causing a lot of alarm, particularly among Democrats. That's why they're going to force a floor vote today in the Senate on a resolution that would essentially rein in Trump's war powers. But given there's very little Republican support for that, that's largely just seen as a symbolic move.
Mel, we're going to have you stand by here because we do have a few more questions for you. We do want to bring Gordon back in. We fixed his technical issue. So, Gordon, tell us a little more about your reporting about what happened yesterday. And also just this question, when we talk about this vessel being Russian flagged, what does that mean? How much could that intensify tensions between Moscow and Washington right now?
Sure. So the ship was seized and now in American custody along with its crew. And what we know is that the ship, which started out as the Bella, as it left the Caribbean, and the U.S., as I was saying, was essentially chasing it through the Atlantic. And now the Marinera. And it's been boarded, and we're not even sure exactly how much oil, if any, is on that ship. I mean, I think the Russian government said that this was a violation of maritime law. This was, legally Russian flagged. But I think now, obviously, it will raise some tensions between U.S. and Russia over this ship. Putting aside the biggest issue between Moscow and Washington right now being the settling of the Ukraine conflict.
Gordon, thank you so much. Mel, we're going to bring you back in here because now we want to also ask about Greenland. This became a big discussion. It was even in the weeks prior to what we saw, this military action in Venezuela. Now President Trump is refusing to rule out using the military to take over that territory. A reminder, our viewers have probably heard us saying this a lot. It's a part of Denmark. That is a NATO ally. What are lawmakers saying about that right now, including Republicans? Is there an appetite for something like that?
There's been really mixed reactions, including inside the Republican Party. Most Democrats and some Republicans have said this would be really dangerous, really misguided, and they also said it would be illegal without congressional authorization or congressional approval. But most Republicans are standing by Trump on this. They are downplaying the idea that Trump would actually use the military to take over Greenland. They say he's only looking at diplomatic channels. So they're really trying to instill some sort of calm, especially among some of our allies. I want you to take a look at what Speaker Mike Johnson said about this yesterday.
We're not at war with Greenland. We have no intention of being it. We have no reason to be at war with Greenland, okay? Everybody knows there's geopolitical and strategic importance of that landmass. They're talking about diplomatic channels for this.
However, some of our NATO partners and allies certainly are not convinced of that. I've been told that multiple of them have been reaching out to Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill, trying to get more information, expressing some of their concern. And meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador to Denmark, he'll be meeting with a bipartisan group of senators later today.
So, Mel, I mean, just overall, how are President Trump's MAGA allies just reacting to all these developments with Venezuela, with Greenland? Are they compatible with this sort of America First position, or are we seeing tensions within the MAGA movement?
Well, we had a lot of questions about that, but it looks like, at least so far, Trump's base is standing by him. We've seen this anecdotally in our conversations with Trump allies and other MAGA-aligned lawmakers on Capitol Hill. But we're also seeing it in polling. There's a new Reuters Ipsos poll out that says that just 6% of Republicans actually opposed Trump's actions in Venezuela to capture Maduro, while 65% actually support an additional, stronger United States role in Venezuela. So this does seem to bode well for President Trump right now, despite the fact that he did campaign on ending forever wars and trying to put America first over foreign interests. However, we'll see how long that support lasts, especially if this transition drags on or if it becomes costly for the United States.
All right, Mel and Gordon, appreciate your reporting this morning. Thank you both. The court case against Nick Reiner is facing delays once again. The 32-year-old suspect appeared in court yesterday to face first-degree murder charges. He's accused of stabbing and killing his parents, acclaimed Hollywood director Rob Reiner, and his wife Michelle last month.
But that hearing was thrown off track when Reiner's defense attorney, Alan Jackson, dropped a bombshell by unexpectedly removing himself from the case.
With Mr. Reiner's understanding and consent, would ask to withdraw his counsel's record based on the conversation that we've had in chambers and the explanation that we've provided to the court in chambers. We feel that we have no choice at this juncture but to withdraw as counsel and ask to be relieved. Circumstances beyond our control, but more importantly, circumstances beyond Nick's control, have dictated that, sadly, it's made it impossible for us to continue our representation of Nick. Pursuant to the law in California, Nick Reiner is not guilty of murder.
A public defender will take over Reiner's case. That attorney asked the judge to postpone his arraignment until February 23rd. Reiner has not entered a plea.
NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris is here to help us break down the latest developments in this case. So for those of us who maybe can't read between the lines too much, help us understand what this high-profile attorney who's now not taking this high-profile case, what he had to say, what the reason might be.
Well, so we know that Alan Jackson signed on to this case. He made an appearance. He appeared at the first arraignment, which was then postponed. But there's only a couple of reasons why an attorney withdraws from a case, and it does require court approval. We saw that in Chambers conversation. Is it lack of cooperation? Is it a conflict of interest? Probably not here. It likely comes down to the ability of Nick Reiner to pay for the legal services, which is one of those reasons. We know because the estate is at issue, there is something called the Slayer statutes in California, which preclude somebody from benefiting from the estate if they kill the individual. So the money might be wrapped up in trusts. The trustee could have said, Nick Reiner cannot have access to this money. There could be certain terms or conditions. So it's very likely financial. I say this because a public defender was assigned rather than a different private attorney who would be engaged.
What do you make of that last comment he made about Nick Reiner's involvement?
Nick Reiner is innocent under California law. I actually thought that was of great import because it was very specific, the language that was used. Under the laws of the state of California, Nick Reiner did not commit murder. That, to me, reads like we're going to see an insanity defense, that this is not murder pursuant to the way the law is set out. And now the public defender is going to pick up that case, do an analysis, meet with Nick Reiner, who will ultimately call the shots about which direction this goes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
A spokesperson for the Reiner family had released this statement. I just want to read it really quickly. It says they have the utmost trust in the legal process and will not comment further on matters related to the legal proceedings. What does happen now that a public defender's here?
Well, so now there's going to be a whole new analysis about which way to go. The next step will be the arraignment, and he will enter a plea, presumably. There will also be an analysis of whether or not there's what's called a competency issue, which is whether or not Nick Reiner understands the proceedings against him and can participate in his defense, looking at his mental state right now. But Alan Jackson has an obligation to turn everything over to the public defenders so that they can then move forward with levying a defense based on the evidence that's been collected.
If there is an insanity defense here, talk about how that moves forward and how complicated that can be for a high-profile case.
Yeah, an insanity defense is incredibly rare and incredibly difficult to prove because, you know, we always say prosecutors have the burden of proof. Well, that shifts to the defense to show in California, which is a high standard, that the individual did not understand the nature and consequences of their actions and did not know the difference between right and wrong. So medical evidence will be at the center stage. This is going to be experts. And when I'm talking about experts, you're talking about millions of dollars in expert fees on both sides of the coin to establish the case.
This is actually like the second delay that we've seen here. Is that seen as a setback in any way?
When you have this issue of the mental health at the time of these proceedings, it's common that you see these proceedings be pushed back. We know that there was a sealed medical order after that initial arraignment, which was likely speaking to some type of medical evaluation Nick Reiner went through to ensure that he has the ability to actually move forward in these proceedings from the perspective of where he's at right now with his mental health. So all of that is likely the reason behind these delays. And you got to be extra vigilant because it's very important that the client understands what's going on with these proceedings.
Ultimately, when it comes to an insanity defense, is it solely the discretion of the judge to determine if that's the case?
No, this will be a jury question.
Yep, okay.
It will be a jury question. Prosecution and defense, it will be a battle royale. We're going to see a lot of witnesses take the stand to speak about the interactions between Rob Reiner, Nick Reiner, and the family.
All right, Misty Maris, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Well, let's take a look outside on this unseasonably warm morning. Despite the clear skies here, there are severe storm threats and flood risks over the next few days from Texas to Indiana.
We've got all the details on what to expect with your Morning News Now weather. Angie Lastman's here. Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning to you. Already ramping things up across the midsection of the country where we're going to see that potential for some stronger storms to develop as the day goes on today and potentially tomorrow, too. Here's the deal with your satellite and radar. You can see rain stretched from basically Nebraska all the way down to Texas. This is going to be on the move through the day today, but ramping up the thunderstorm activity for places like Oklahoma and Texas already this morning. Here's the system that we're going to watch. It's going to slide some of that heavy rain into places stretching from the plains to the Midwest, and some of those strongest of storms likely to develop from Texas to Indiana and even stretching up into portions of Michigan. You can see that heavy rain and the potential for some of that wintry mix. We'll get some additional snow. We'll get some kind of slick conditions when it comes to ice. And on top of that, the potential for strong winds, hail, and maybe even a brief tornado will be on the southern side of this system. So places like Indianapolis, St. Louis, Springfield, Oklahoma City all have that potential for that marginal risk for some of those stronger storms to develop through the day today. By tomorrow, that shifts a little farther to the south and east. So we'll see the potential for some of these kind of training storms when one storm develops right behind a storm and so on and so forth. And that causes a potential for flooding, of course, with already saturated grounds and more rain on the way for those same locations. So we'll watch for the potential for flooding across that region for tomorrow. And then that severe risk will be focused across the lower Mississippi Valley. But the difference is tomorrow we'll have that slight risk. So Alexandria stretching up to Birmingham, including New Orleans, all included in that, with the potential for gusty winds to be that biggest threat, but also a couple of tornadoes not out of the question and some damaging hail as well. I mentioned the flooding concern specifically for tomorrow with those training storms. Chattanooga stretching down to the Gulf Coast. We'll see the potential to pick up maybe 2 inches to 2.5 inches in a 1 hour period. So we know, again, not a great not great ingredients for us to avoid that flooding. So we'll be watching specifically for that flash flood risk across that region for tomorrow. Lots going on with this storm system, and we've got some rain and snow out west, guys, and warm temperatures. So a lot happening today with weather.
Here it feels downright tropical.
It does. It's very odd. Yes, not typical for this time of year. And it's going to stay that way for the next couple of days.
All right. We'll enjoy it. Thanks,
Thank
Angie.
you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.